Welcome to the Deal Champs podcast. Jason's drunk on a beach. The master of hair has lost all continuity. He decided to go on vacation, gave shit for not showing up on the pod. And then now Jason just sent us a message. Hey, got a late dinner. Now we're getting drinks. Can't make it, boys. Shout out Grego for being a fill-in last minute. And the only reason I thought of Greg is because he texted me that we're waiting on someone. I was like, Greg will be a good fill-in.
Dude, you got me at the best time. You called and I was like, I had my phone off for 2 hours. I was just in Zen mode. And I'm like, I'm in a good mood right now. I'm going to answer the phone. And you're like, you want to be on the show? I'm like, sure.
I love it. You straight had it off, like completely off.
2 hours. Yeah, no, I'm that's my new thing, man. I just turn my phone. If I'm like super fatigued with like decision making and stuff, like I didn't feel good today either. I'm turning my phone off for 2 hours. I don't care. Like if it's that urgent, like, I don't know. So
is anything really that urgent though? I don't think anything's that urgent.
It's really not. Unless there's like, if I know about something, like let's say there's a closing happening and I need to be available for a phone call if they screwed a document up, like I would know about that in advance. And then I would obviously not do that. But today it's like just a bunch of bullshit.
I like it. Well, let's do our quick intros. My name is Stratton Brown, aka Strat Daddy. We've scaled 2 different companies to 7 figures. We have a 7-figure real estate portfolio. And we are on a journey of 0 to $1 million in 6 months. It has been an absolute grind. Nationwide wholesaling is not for the faint of heart. I won't lie. And you can watch it everywhere on YouTube and Facebook. I'm documenting everything. We have Mr. Captain America, Dean Rogers.
Let's go, baby. Hey, guys. Captain America, a.k.a. Dean Rogers, your other co-host here. Started my career in the NFL, then transitioned to corporate, then into real estate full-time. Been doing this for over a decade now. We've done over 650 deals. We're getting very close to 700. We have an 8-figure rental portfolio and coaching students how to get started with wholesaling. And you guys can always connect with me at deanrogers.com.
And then we have the New Yorker, Mr. Greg Helbeck.
New Yorker.
Thank you for filling in, bro.
My pleasure. Greg Helbeck. I've been doing this business since 2000, and I started at 15, but really 2016, I started doing deals. Grew up on the East Coast. I live in Seattle now, so I run my business pretty much virtually at this point. I do some local stuff here now. Big on wholesaling and flipping. And like Dean, I started buying rentals 2020. So starting to stack them rentals up. And now, the second half of 2024, I've been buying a lot more rental properties, which is really going to be good because I think the rates are going to come down, which we'll talk about. And that'll just make burning properties even better. Because I'm still doing it with high rates, but I'm losing some money on some of these houses, like $200-$300 a month. So once the rates come down, it'll be easier.
I spoke to someone who we all know, who is someone who we all respect, and he sold off his entire 100 rental portfolio. He said, bro, it's not even fucking worth the trouble. I can make more money elsewhere. He was like, I can get better returns elsewhere. He was a speaker at the Deal Champ Summit.
Interesting.
Returns are one thing, dude, but I'm talking about tax benefits. I mean, long-term wealth, that's what I'm doing it for. I'm not doing it for returns right now. Tell you that.
For me, it's tax benefits. And then like with the storage stuff, if I buy one a year and it's like $1 million to $5 million bucks, and I just buy one a year, my net worth when it's all paid down is bananas. Right. And then the tax benefits along the way is what I see. But that for me is storage. And I think it works a little bit better than singles. You got to buy a lot of singles.
So here's my thing with singles. If you're a wholesaler or put it this way, if you're going direct to seller, you're already getting inventory that you can just, instead of flipping it, you just keep it. It's like literally the same thing. So I think if someone doesn't do direct to seller marketing and that's not what they're familiar with, I mean, rentals are a pain in the ass, but we're already spending the money on marketing. We're already getting the leads. We're already underwriting properties. They're worth the same, like the ARV and the refi value. Usually the refi value is higher actually. So I feel like with Dean and, all of our businesses, like it's not that hard to add these things. I will say, managing them kind of sucks, but and I invest in a blue state and I live in a blue state. Dean, everyone here is in a blue state and I still do it because I found too that if you have the right tenant and your house isn't like a total slumlord festival, you really don't get a lot of calls. I mean, and then if you do
Yeah.
get a call, like I don't have a problem dealing with it. So I think long-term tax benefits, it's a no-brainer.
For me, it's the tax benefits, I think, are number one. Once you get to a certain point in real estate, you just have to keep buying them, or else you're just going to get slaughtered every year.
Yeah, you're going to give half your money away. But even if you live in Seattle, where I live, where there's no income tax, you're going to give away 40%. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I'm looking at, like, we get a lot of our deals that come in, and I'll look at them like, oh, as a rental, this will not make any profit at all. I might have to write a check to get into it for 10 or 15 grand, but I could have flipped that house for 50. So it's a hard decision to make when I have a lot of overhead and stuff. But I just know if I don't keep some of these properties every year, like, I'm going to pay the tax man anyway.
Yeah.
And all the houses I bought when I started went up like, by 30-40% already. So I started buying them in 2020. So I'm like, man, if I sold that house like in 2020, like now it's worth X, it's like crazy. So I've never heard a real estate investor say, I wish I didn't buy, besides this guy, I guess, which I totally get his decision, but I'd never heard a guy say, oh, I wish I sold more houses. Like, a lot of these guys are like, I wish I kept more houses.
Yeah.
Because they'd be 10 times richer.
I would say Dean should have bought me a G-Wagon last year. Come here, my guy.
Okay.
Man, my story, Greg, I ended up paying several $100,000, $250,000 in taxes last year.
Ooh.
And
Last year?
Yeah. Just got done paying them in April, May, whatever the time is, whenever I got wrecked. I think it was April. I just didn't buy enough rentals. And I bought some rentals, a couple rentals, but the focus was not rentals. And it was, man, I'm only going to buy the rental if it's a perfect BRRRR deal, which to me means I have no money in the deal whatsoever when I go to refinance, because I got it so good. Sure. And the numbers work out. But instead of putting $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 down on more rentals, that ended up just coming out of my pocket and literally just in the thin air and having nothing to show for it after. And I felt just sick in my stomach when that happened. And I was scrambling to do every which thing that I could to use every strategy in the book, and still got me down to that. And that is with already taxed dollars. That there was already another 150 plus that was already taxed dollars through W-2. So, dude, I'm like, all right, I'm going heavy on rentals. So we've been buying a lot more rentals this year.
Wow. So you're saying that, so you have the salary, you pay yourself through the business, which I have too. And then, so you're paying, income tax every paycheck. Then you got the draw out of the business, which is what you paid the $250,000 on. And the thing with that is, and I talk to my accountant a lot. He's really good with his stuff. The only thing you can do as a real estate investor, like, everyone's like, how do I save money in taxes? Like, if you don't cost seg the properties, like, you can only write off your kids so much. You can only
to cost seg.
Section
you have to cost seg everything out. You just have to keep buying it. And then, I mean, this will go into all the other tax stuff that we're going to talk about today. But if you don't, because Dean didn't cost seg something, and shout out Brady Slack. Brady's like, hey, bro, just go do a cost segregation on these. And it saved Dean like $1 million.
Wow.
This was a couple of years ago, dude.
Well, here's another thing too that I see with the stuff that I'm buying now. Like, I'll give you, this is a legit example. So there's 3 condos that a seller's selling me, right? And I told my act guy, I'm like, I want you to get a rental. So you take one of them, I'll take the other 2. I'm buying one of them for 87 something, and then the other one for like 135. So they're like good deals. I'm buying them at like, 65 cents, whatever it is. But that's such a low purchase price. Like, that doesn't really save you that much in cost seg, right? So, I bought another property last month and I paid $270 for that, and I'll get a lot more juice out of that. So I'd almost rather buy a more expensive property. Maybe that loses $500 a month. My other properties will offset that, and I'm going to save a lot more in taxes. So I don't know. I think a lot of the people like these like cheap rentals, and
I think they're stupid, bro. You don't get any. You don't really cash flow with a cheap rental. You don't get any appreciation over there. You don't really get any type of cost segregation from it.
No.
To where Henry's the one who like really switched my mindset. He's like, bro, I buy A and B class properties that break even or lose me a little bit of money, but it's a trophy asset. My business makes so much money. I'm not worried about getting taken down by these things.
Yep.
They're going up, like, they're outpacing the negative cash flow and appreciation. I'll be fine. And eventually the rents will catch up, right? Because like at a point in time, your rents are going to match that mortgage rate and then go up. Rents are never going down.
No.
And so that made me think a little bit about that too.
100%. Interest rates coming down. So here's another thing I see too, where, you know, the tax laws are changing now. I know that I think when I first started buying them, there was 100% bonus depreciation, and then it went to 80. And I think this year is 60, if I'm not mistaken. And that means you have to, and obviously I'm not an accountant, so this isn't CPA advice, but you have to have that rental. It has to be like put into service by that calendar year. So like if you buy a rental and you're rehabbing it, you can't really consider that. So it's got to be like have a tenant inside by the end of the year. But now we're looking at 60% bonus depreciation. So, you know, regardless, you have to buy more properties now just to get the same amount of bonus depreciation because they changed the law. And I don't think my accountant was saying that they were trying to like change the back to 100%, but I don't think it's going to get past whatever, you know.
If Trump wins, it gets passed.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen now. So,
you don't think Trump's going to win?
No. If he wins, of course. But I'm saying if he doesn't win, I don't think.
I think that was Greg saying he's voting blue. I heard it.
Right, bro. Did you just say you're voting
first
for
year?
Kamala
Heard
Harris?
it first
You
year.
heard it first. This isn't even a political show, but like, goddamn, Greg.
Oh, no.
You're wild.
Wow.
No. We won't get into politics, but I think if, let's say he doesn't win for some extent, like, I mean, listen, it's a toss up. I don't know what's going to happen. That's going to be an interesting, you know, election. But even if he doesn't win, I still think they're like, because they were trying to change it back to 100% like this year without whoever the president is, like, I think with Biden still in office. So you got to buy more properties now just to get to the same level you were at because they changed it, which I don't think really does any good for anyone, because if you make it disincentivizing to buy rentals, you're going to eventually get guys to say, you know what, this isn't even worth it. I got tenants. I got all this BS. I'm not getting good tax breaks. Like it's going to just not benefit anybody, honestly. That's why you buy the real estate, because you provide the housing and you get the tax benefit. So if they take that away, it's just stupid because nobody's going to want to buy properties anymore.
Of it, bro. That's not. We talked about this. It's not worth the pain in the ass that you have to deal with tenants.
Yeah.
No matter how much money you're making, people will just be like, no. Like I can go do something easier, make more money, have more time, and now I don't have because everybody will just kind of go into business.
Dude, no one would want to buy rent. I wouldn't want to. Dude, if I had no tax benefits, I wouldn't buy rentals. I'd rather just save my money and lend it out or whatever.
Shanae says she wants to go back to the topic of politics. Aaron said, "Don't put that out there." She said, "Let's not put that out in the universe." But Shanae says, "Let's talk about Kamala and her unrealized capital gains." What do you all say?
God,
did we talk about that last week? I think it's
the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, honestly.
It's a travesty, bro. I mean, if you think about it through like all aspects of business, I was listening to All In the other day. Let's say someone raises around, so like they have a company that's valued at $1 billion. They're raising a couple $100 million in funding. Because that company was valued at $1 billion, they have to raise extra money just to pay that tax bill, even though that person is illiquid. Right? Because, bro, you're valued at that. And then what they said is like, oh, well, you can pay it over 7 years. Bro, 25% on $1 billion when you're not liquid, no matter what you do, that's not making any sense. And then so everybody just, all the business formation that America gets, it's all just going to move somewhere else. As soon as you get any type of
doesn't make any sense.
No.
Any traction, you're out to like Dubai or whatever.
I saw a good comment on a Facebook thread. And the person said, "So what happens when my property value goes down? You know,
do I get a
tax credit? Do I get a refund?" Then there was all sorts of jokes about like, "Oh, what about my unrealized business expenses? Do I get a write off my unrealized business expenses?" I thought that was a great one. That was a good one. Yeah, I just don't see how the economy could function off of this. I mean, even the biggest companies would just get absolutely railroaded. And I don't see how anybody could survive. I don't know how that idea came into play.
I don't think it would ever even go into effect, even if they're proposing it, because like you said, you would disincentivize everybody. And then I think it's only, I did some research, like if you have $100 million net worth plus, I mean, that's, you know, not many people, but still like, there's no if you don't make it in like the rich people, right? They provide jobs, they provide housing, they pay a lot in property. So that's another thing too. People like say, oh, you know, you don't pay taxes, whatever. Think about it. If you have 150 rental properties, you're paying 150 property tax bills, right? That's providing infrastructure for the local municipalities, the fire department, the schools.
It's already providing
the
tax money.
roads. Yeah. So you're paying more in taxes, right? You're just paying it indirectly. And then you're providing housing for people because you can't have the government get involved in housing because that would be a disaster. So
They don't know what the hell
doesn't
they're
make any sense. Like and then they were proposing, I took a flight from out to Seattle. So it was like 6 hours. I was listening to podcasts the whole time. And they were talking about one of the building 3 million new additional homes, right?
Yeah.
You know how hard that is to do in New York and California? Like the only way that would ever work is if they literally made it like a fast track, like the federal government made every municipality like pretty much push permits through within like 2 or 3 weeks, right? Which would never happen because the municipalities would push back. It doesn't make any sense. Like there's no way you're going to be able to build 3 million houses in like a 4-year term. Like you just couldn't do that. And it's just not something that is practical. Like it sounds good and like, oh yeah, build houses and it's incentivizing for builders, but that would never go through because it's so hard to build in New York, California, Washington. Like
that was one of our topics today, though, because what she proposed is 3 million, but in order to do so, she was going to give a $40 billion tax credit in order to, right? And so like that was kind of what we threw out last week. Like, if you really want to solve the housing crisis, you need to give massive tax credits to businesses and developers to get it done. I just don't think $40 billion is a big enough tax credit to make it happen. And at this point, it's like out of my waters as far as how much $40 billion is. But when you think on a national scale, it just doesn't seem like enough.
Well, think about how much it costs to build a house, right? In Seattle, it's $300 a square foot, $350 a square foot usually to build it. And yeah, California's the same thing. So it just doesn't to build a property or even to do rehabs, like they could throw rehabs into that too, because you're like redeveloping a house. To get anything pushed through, even if I'm doing a remodel on a house in New York to get permits.
I just did this right here on my phone. This is crazy. I know it's probably not going to come across too well.
I can see it.
I did 40 billion divided by 3 million. It's $13,333. A $13,000 tax credit
per home.
That'll pay for a quarter of the lumber for the basement.
Yeah. That'll pay for part of the kitchen. It'll pay for
it's a cabinet. Maybe that's the cost of the cabinets.
It's the cabinets. It's the fucking cabinet.
That's the hard cost of the cabinets. The actual cabinets in the packages.
$13,000 tax credit for building a house.
That's insane. But the thing with that is like that would never be able to get built so fast because it's so hard to do anything with any of these local towns. Like it's crazy. Like there's a place in New York, Rockland County. If you want to get a permit, it takes like 4 to 5 months to get a permit to remodel a house. Like how could you get a new construction permit? And then another thing too, is a lot of these other California's a little different, but in like the Northeast, like they don't like building. They can't do ADUs. You can't build in your backyard. You can't do any of that. Like they restrict that because everyone, votes against it. So like even in Seattle, you can do a lot of building here. You can put, units in the backyard and they're pretty good with that. But, it just doesn't, it sounds good, but it would never actually come into play. It's not practical. So if you take the incentives away from the entrepreneurs who want to own real estate, you're going to ultimately hurt society and you're going to make everything more expensive too. That's another thing. I'm sorry for like rambling here, but I pay attention to this stuff. Good. If you cap the rent, like let's say it's like, rent control 5% per year.
That's what happens in New York, bro. New York.
It's bad. Yeah. California, I don't know if it has it, but if you make the rent control 5% per year, every single landlord is going to automatically increase that rent every single year. So the rents,
because you'll never get it.
Yeah.
You'll never get that money again.
No.
So you have to now increase it. Because Fresno has a similar law, and Dean owns more rentals out here than I do. But like they kind of like tried to enforce it to where it's like 10% of something and then a bunch of other BS. But you've seen it across everywhere. As soon as rent control is enforced, now all landlords will take their money because they will know they will never get it. Like if I don't raise it, I'll never get it. The rent has to go up.
Yep. And then the next year, you're just making everything more expensive. And in New York, there's a rule, like in certain cities, like I'm actually buying a rental in one of the cities where it's effective is you can only, it's called like a good cause eviction. Like you can't evict somebody basically, like unless they're not paying the rent or whatever. Right. And and I've ran into this on a lot of like properties that I bought when I was flipping them and there was tenants inside or whatever. It's so hard to like these landlords who sell us houses, like they give us a good price in exchange for a tenant who's paying like 40 cents on the dollar rent. And then the tenant gets pissed at the guy who bought the house because you're either jacking their rent up or asking them to leave, giving them money. Like we'll give them 10, 15 grand to leave. Like it is what it is. It's so expensive to evict. And the real bad guy is not the person buying the house. It's that landlord who never raised the rent for the last 15 years because they were essentially just letting them just slowly, like kind of cook slowly, eventually to where they were like, oh my God, this is insane. But if that dude just raised the rent like $50 a year for 15 years, like by the time they went to go sell it, okay, they're paying market rent. I'll buy it with them inside. No big deal. I'm not going to jack the rent up. There's no, but I had this property where I bought the property. The dude was paying like 50% of market rent. And then the seller told me he was a great tenant. And I'm like, all right, I'll take your word for it. I buy this thing. The guy talks to an attorney. He's like, I think I'm going to squat here for 6 months. I want 30 grand to leave or else I'm going to squat here. And he knew he had a lot of leverage. So we ended up negotiating down, but it was like 6 grand to buy him out when he technically should have paid me rent because that was anyway, but it's just crazy. Tenants know they have rights and they understand that they can squat in these crazy states. And it's just ultimately does nobody any good. It's ridiculous.
Sorry, guys. Let me tell you this story real quick. One of my clients is owed close to $100,000 by a deal going south, and the person was an appraiser, and so he's suing that person for that money, and the person's been dodging the calls, and so we set up an appraisal at one of my rentals, and they're going to get served to go to court at one of my rentals. And so that's what I've been coordinating on my phone, is to make sure that my assistant made sure that person's there so they can get served so our client can get their money. Fun fact. Sometimes you got California.
Of course it is.
Yeah, it's in California.
You want to know something crazy? This is funny. We're all like, these are like real case studies. So there's this, I can't like give the info out because it's like actively going on, but long story short, there might be a condo that I'm involved in out here in Seattle, and not in the city of Seattle, but in the suburbs. And there's a drug dealing maniac living in the condo, and they never had a lease. And there was never any, like, it was just like, they were supposed to do work in exchange for like free housing. They ended up not doing work, and they created like this drug den out of the property. And I'm thinking about buying it, right, with the dude inside. But I called the attorney who's actually like working on the case, and he was telling me basically to get somebody out. And these people didn't have a lease. There was no rent. There was nothing. It's completely like a squatter. 6 months to get them out. Squatting 6 months. And that's not even in the city of Seattle. That's in
slinging dope.
It's crazy.
Slinging dope. All right, let's go down. What else we got to talk about? So we covered
I got a couple quick shout outs real quick, Strat Daddy. Let's see. We got Aaron Shelton and Shanae Nene from Resimply going ham in the comments over here on IG. We also got Miranda Widmeyer, who I met in Sacramento at the meetup last week. She's a powerhouse on social media, and she just got started in January. That's a whole nother story, but she's doing awesome. Shout out to Resimply. Shanae, I got the shirt on today. Shout out to Resimply. So yeah, lots of comments from Shanae and Aaron about everything we're talking about politics wise. Seems like they want to get heated about it. They're saying how the left is throwing anything they want in there, saying anything to get something voted, and then sliding stuff in there with addendums. I definitely know all about that. So, man,
I can't believe it's only $13,000 per house. I didn't even do the math. I was like, it just doesn't sound like a lot of money on the grand scheme of things. You know, like 40 billion is a lot of money.
House.
40 billion is a lot, but divided by 3 million, right? You still think it would be a large number, but $13,000 tax credit. That's it. Yikes.
Well, before we transition, think about it this way. Let's say a builder, his margin is 10% of the sales price, right? Which is usually what I like to make as a flip. So if you're a builder, it's like at least that, maybe more. So you make $100,000 net profit. Well, that's probably more, probably like 150 net profit. You're going to get a $13,000 tax credit. You're going to pay taxes on 135 grand roughly. Like, why would you go? Why would
you do it? Why would you do it?
No
You want to show off your gift, Dean?
Yeah, Shanae said, where's the Captain America portrait? So quick shout out to Shanae. Look how freaking crazy this is.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
This is by far the coolest gift. So Strat Daddy is one of the best gift givers I know, always has it on his mind. I got this in the mail from Shanae because there was all this talk going back and forth about Captain America. Stratton was slandering me and gave me a terrible nickname that started to stick. He's got sticky nicknames. And so Shanae set the record straight. We set the record straight on the podcast when I came out dressed up in full gear, full get out. So I got this from Shanae. Shanae, thank you so much. This is such a thoughtful gift. Brought me a lot of happiness, and excited to give you a hug when I see you in a couple of weeks here.
That's awesome.
Bro, sending gifts is the easiest way into people's lives. If you can send gifts, stay relevant with them, and it keeps the relationship going.
Yep.
You want to hear something cool? So my daughter, she comes in when I have the portrait and I have it in my corner over here. She's like, Dada, what's this? I'm like, Dada's a superhero. She's like, Dada's a superhero? And then so she just keeps coming back in the room. She's like, Dada's superhero. Dada's superhero. And just
That's awesome.
Keeps looking at it and like, that's you, Dada. What are you doing there, Dada? It's just the cutest thing. So thank you, Shanae. Appreciate it.
One of his 9 children.
Yeah.
Soon to be 10.
Soon to be 10. You're right. All right. I got a good question for both of you guys. Especially you, Greg, because the winter scares me. Are you guys slowing down flips? And I'll give this a preface. Someone me and Dean know, it had 10 plus deals fall through because the company said, hey, who was going to buy it said, hey, until we figure out what the fuck's going on with the election, we're out. And this is millions and millions and millions of dollars. Like, this isn't like small stuff.
Yeah.
And so that made me think about, between the winter coming up and the election cycle, are you slowing down on flips?
No. I mean, I'll tell you why. I mean, listen, I think that's a logical concern, but I'm just looking at, like, if I can buy a piece of real estate, because let's look at the real estate market in general. Like, there's some markets that got a little rocky, like South Florida and whatever, Austin, Texas. But for the most part, real estate has stayed pretty strong, despite the rates going up a couple of years ago. But if I can buy a house that's worth 400 grand for 175, put 50 grand into it and sell it and make a profit, like, there's always going to be demand for that housing product, especially if the rates go down, which they are most likely, and they already have started to come down. So I'm not really worried about that, because the stuff that I'm flipping is like affordable housing, whatever the ARV is in my market, and under, or the median price and under.
Yeah.
And there's always high demand for that. Now, if I'm doing like luxury flips, which I don't do, I'd probably stay away from that, because you have a small buyer pool. But like, even in New York in the winter, like, it's not even that bad down by me. Like upstate New York, Strat, where we try to do that little Genesee property, that's where you get a real winter. But down by me, it doesn't really get that crazy. Seattle doesn't snow really here. You got to go to the mountains for that. And actually, it's funny. Some of my best flips I ever did, which ironically were in California, I sold them all in the winter and still got great offers on them. So I've never seen the climate be an issue for me, like in terms of the winter season. Now, the election, yeah, that could be a little different. But I think at the end of the day, like, listen,
I don't think in a house flipping scenario the election would play a role.
No, because you're always going to need a house to live in. People are going to have kids. They're going to want to get out of their apartment. They can afford a house, right? Like, I just think there's no inventory for the most part in a lot of these areas. So if you have a good price product and you're not trying to like shoot for the moon, I don't think you're going to get caught with your pants down, even if there's a critical election coming up. So I'm not going to back away from them as long as I can buy deals at the right number.
I don't think the consumer cares about the election whatsoever and like their decision-making process. The only people who care are people who are in business, and it like actually would affect their pocketbooks because there's laws that are being passed. But more than likely, the consumer cares about fucking genitals getting cut off of children and Bible thumping Trumpers. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what the consumer is typically concerned about.
Yeah.
Like, but they're not concerned like, hey, this bill's gonna pass. They're not big on oil, this or that. If this doesn't pass, I'm fucked. In my opinion, I just don't think that changes the way the consumer would behave. Do you know?
So I got a couple thoughts here. I want to call out some comments. We got some chatty Cathys over here in my IG today. So let's see. We've got Aaron Shelton saying foot on the gas pedal. And she said, yep, medium price point, no luxury flips right now. So just so you know, Greg, we have an amazing community member in Fresno, community members in Fresno in a couple, Aaron and Cletus Shelton. And they've become like the it couple that have just like magazine quality flips, like flips you've never seen before, especially not in the type of deals we do. And they have done plenty of luxury flips and medium price point, but she's now saying, yeah, I'm just going to chill out and hang out in the medium price point. She says foot on the gas pedal. She says, oh, thank you so much. Giving credit where credit's due. And, but here's me pushing back on a little bit, because I agree with you guys. But if I'm trying to think of the human psychology of the election and what's going on in the market, there being, low supply of houses, there being higher interest rates than there have been because everybody's short-sighted, right? They're not thinking historically, oh, these are actually pretty good. They're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're so high. I can't afford a house. Inflation, cost of living, everything is up. I can't afford it, right? So for those that are looking to buy and they're having trouble finding, there's low supply. If interest rates don't get better and the election doesn't go the way they think, I think people could easily be emotionally wrapped up and distracted in everything that's going on in the world. And I think typically our clientele, people who are at the medium price point and below, check all those boxes of people that, fit that avatar, people that are, strapped by this economy right now. And inflation is really just doing a number to everybody and making it hard. So to imagine the market not getting better, let's say interest rates don't get better, there's not more supply, then they're feeling frustrated and maybe kind of giving up on buying a house, right?
Nah.
They're maybe feeling buyer fatigue. Maybe they're feeling like hopeless. I can't even afford my rent now, right? Because inflation's so high. Now they're trying to move in with other people or move to less expensive markets. They're moving away from a California or a New York or something like that. So that's some potential side effects or human psychology about what's going on right now. But am I afraid of the market or the winter months? I think that's the direct question. Am I afraid of the winter months? I mean, again, we're in low inventory. Historically, the winter months are a little slower. The holiday months are a little slower because people are wanting to hang out during the holidays. Now, the people that are in hyper, motivated situations to sell their houses, the typical people we're working with, nothing is different.
Increases, if anything, during the holidays.
We always mail during the holidays and we get some home run deals.
Dude, we've locked up deals on Thanksgiving Day. We've locked up deals on Christmas Eve Day. Like
that's pretty good.
It was pretty cool. But like people that are motivated, and that's not going to change based on the time of the year. It's the situation and the circumstance that's driving that sale. So I don't think the market's going to change. Now, the flip side of that is actually selling the property. And should you put houses on the market? Is it a bad time to buy and try to list it on the market? Again, with such low inventory, if interest rates go up, it's likely that that's not going to happen. But if it did, I think that there's probably going to be even less inventory, not more. And if interest rates go down, there's more buyers and probably a little bit more inventory. There's
still going to be less inventory. There's nothing that solves for the inventory problem. If interest rates go up or down, people still need the houses. There's no houses. And then if people were truly going to move away from expensive places, then people would have moved out of the Bay Area, California, and gone to fucking shitty Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? Like, whenever there's a free agency in the sporting world, nobody's trying to go to Oklahoma City. Everybody's trying to go to Miami, LA, New York, and Dallas because they know it's the markets where they can have fun, where they can make good money, right? And like all those things. If people really cared about not being able to afford the area, like Oakland, which is a hellhole, San Francisco, which is a hellhole, people would have gotten out a long fucking time ago.
Yeah.
They'd have been like, they would have like, bro, I'm pulling the cord. I'm done. I'm toast. People just can't do it. They won't do it. It's not what they want. And so I don't see any world where interest rates stay the same now, because I think the Fed, if they say we're going to lower them, then they don't. That's just like a terrible look to me. Like, it's like, why would you even do that? And then on top of that, interest rates will never go higher. There's still nothing that solves for that inventory. And so people still need homes. I'd love to hear James Daynard's thought on this with his fat ass fucking luxury flips that he's doing.
He's doing some big ones.
I was on the phone with him yesterday. He's a good guy. He lives.
What has he said about it?
He lives in Arizona, but he's like the biggest guy in Seattle. They're huge.
Yeah.
He'd be a good guest for the show, by the way. Anyway, I think another thing with the markets too, like, you know, a lot of us, I mean, you guys are in Cali, you know, I'm in Washington and New York. Like, people don't like the economy in like the New York area or the economy in Seattle area, Southern California, Dallas. Like, there's high paying jobs there, right? There's high paying jobs. People can really afford those houses because there's a very strong economy. Like, you got tech workers here in Seattle, New York City's got Wall Street, you know, North Jersey, Connecticut. So I think those markets too, like, people like to really like rag on the blue states, and obviously they got their problems, but those markets have the high paying jobs. Like San Francisco Bay Area, there's still startup companies there. There's Silicon Valley, there's San Jose, there's San Mateo, whatever, Redwood City. Like, it's the crazy good economy there. So, you know, those areas I think are always going to be the strongest for the most part because of the economy. People can actually afford to live there. If you live in Oklahoma, like Oklahoma City is kind of big, but it's still a, you know, cheaper area. But if you're buying a property, like we've done novation deals in like the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, the first thing I'm thinking of is like, who's going to buy this and what do they do for work? Where's the economy there? Like, who's yeah, you got schools, hospitals, government jobs, right? But besides that, like,
oil,
where are you going to go? Like, we even run into this sometimes in Delaware, like lower Delaware, where we do some business. There's no economy there. Like, you're selling to people who are retired, who are moving there, right? So these bigger cities, you have a lot more money going around. And, you know, I've been to San Francisco, and honestly, I walked around there. It wasn't that bad. Like, I mean, I didn't go to the worst part of town, but like, I was like, what is everyone saying about San Francisco? It's not that bad down here. Like, it doesn't seem that sketchy. And there's a lot of money there. So I think the only thing I will say about the winter season, and I don't do business in this area, but like, if you're in like a North Dakota or a Minnesota or like Buffalo, New York, where you're getting like 3, 4, 5 feet of snow a week, I think that's a different story because you literally can't work on houses because you're, you know, snowed in. I know a guy in Minnesota who says like never get involved in a property in the winter. So, I mean, it makes sense. They get like 10 feet of snow there. Besides that, I mean, most of the country is not really getting dumped on like that. So I don't know. I've never seen it be an issue in my market.
Fair enough. All right. What's our next one?
Got some comments over here in IG. So Jeff Steinman's talking about with the possible recession coming. We didn't touch on that, and financial hardship hitting people. Doesn't that present more opportunities for flippers, or does it scare those flippers away? I think it creates more opportunities. I think naturally there'll be some buyers that would be scared because when there's fear and uncertainty, people naturally just can't help but get scared. Even the people that know what's happening can't help feel but get that fear in their stomach. You know.
Do you think? Go ahead.
I was just saying, Jeff was also saying it's all about jobs, but tech is laying off more than ever right now. I have been seeing that in the headlines, and AI is going to clean house.
It'll take a while for that to happen.
Yeah, number one, it'd take a while for AI to actually
happen overnight.
Show me an AI software that can replace me a legitimate virtual assistant, and I will go pay for that. I will pay the salary to that software.
It doesn't exist.
It does not exist. I have yet to see one. Maybe with coding, you have co-pilots that help people. But like, trust me, I look into this shit all the time. If it can save us time and money, the money's going to flow there. But it hasn't gotten there. We haven't gotten anything from fucking anyone yet that is of substance besides JPEGs that could honestly be converted into NFTs and then some videos. So maybe it hurts the arts. But as far as jobs, there's lots more work besides jobs. Like, I mean, think about all the small blue collar businesses inside of Dallas, inside of New York, Chicago, and all these major metro areas. Just because there's tech, there's all sorts of hard companies, right? This is the best way I could put it. Blue collar companies that service all these other companies. They're not laying off people just yet. And I would say, what is a recession to you? Because when we actually hit the recession terms, what was it, last year? Joe Biden said, no, 2 months or 2 quarters, quarter over quarter with downward decline is not a recession, even though that's technically what the definition is. So I don't think we will see anything. I've been calling for blood in the streets for like 6 years, bro. Samzo, I say this all the time, called Top in like 2019, sold off his entire portfolio before he died. Said, hey, this can't go on any longer. Shit, I don't think there's going to be a massive recession anytime soon.
Here's where I think there could have been a big recession, but the government came in and pumped money. COVID. I remember in COVID, that was a long time ago now. It's crazy to say that. I had a flip on the market and I was like shitting bricks. And I was like, holy shit, what am I getting? I had a private lender on that thing. And I was like, holy shit, I think the economy is going to melt. And that didn't happen. The deal sold. I made a bunch of money on it. And then the market obviously boomed up because they pumped a ton of money into the economy, which caused inflation, this, that, and the other. But like COVID could have been the ultimate, like, Great Depression kind of situation, which it was terrible for what happened to people. But obviously the economy, kept going along. I think the only thing I could say, and like I said, I'm not like a conspiracy person, but if something happens with the election, like maybe there's a black swan that could happen there. Who knows? I hope I don't get censored for this, but like that could be like, like a civil war or something. But like, I don't think that's going to happen. That's just fear mongering. It's fear porn, right? Like I'll give you another example. In New York, the Hudson Valley. Okay. I'm screening for tenants right now on a new property. And most of the people who reach out are making $85,000 to $100,000 a year working for ancillary businesses in a pretty good economy. They're not working for Microsoft. They're working at they're a plumber or they're whatever. They're a home healthcare aide making 80 grand a year. Like that's where a lot of these people have the jobs. They're not working for Facebook making 500 grand a year. So, there's plenty of those good jobs out there. Teachers, stuff like that, the blue collar kind of situation. That's really what keeps the economy flowing. And, that's what I see, at least most of my tenants who, live in my houses.
Do you guys know anybody who crushed it through 2008 through like the financial crisis? Do you know anybody who was like, you know what? Actually, I crushed it. We just kept buying shit deeper and deeper. And then we actually had the pockets to withstand it. Do you know anybody who actually did that?
I know guys who survived. I don't know guys who were like,
you don't know any guys who like
netting the most amount. I mean, but we were in middle school, Stratton. This was a long time ago. So,
yeah.
I mean, I didn't really know what was going on back then, but I mean, what was like, I think that in the 2008, like I said, this is not my expertise, but the 2008 situation was like people who couldn't afford houses were getting houses with 100% 100+% leverage. And the houses were going up in value with no logic behind it because they were just giving money out and it propped it up. It's so hard to get a mortgage nowadays. It's hard to qualify for a rental property today. Like you can't just get a mortgage by being an idiot. Like you have to have income and this, that, and the other. So I think if there was a recession, it wouldn't be caused by housing because there's no inventory and it's hard to get a mortgage. Like, we have buyers that, are questionable and sometimes they'll get declined for a mortgage on a flip. We're selling them because they can't get past underwriting. Like in 2007, you could say you made 300 grand and they said, sign here, press hard 2 copies and you got a mortgage. So that will never happen again. So I don't think housing would be the reason why a recession happened. So I don't know what could cause it, right? It has to be like a civil war or something, like a revolution. Like that's the thing that scares me the most. I don't think that would happen either. But I mean, it just doesn't make any sense if you think about it.
Guys, I got good news. That chick got served. There we go. Boom. She got served.
There you go.
We got the deed done.
We
got the dirty deed done. Kind of had to set her up, but hey, money is money. And we did a favor for a client. All right, so we got no slowdown in the wintertime. Ooh, I want to hit, bro. Zuck admits to censorship, and then we're gonna finish it off with does the way you look determine your success, bro? have you guys been censored on social media? Because I think if anybody says it doesn't matter, they're high. Because like if I say something wrong on social media and then I don't get the reach, that affects my pocketbooks. I raise money through social media. We get new clients through social media. We sell products through social media. Like everything in my life, essentially, the lever is social. We can get more deals through social, everything. And if I say one bad thing, I think Carlos Reyes is a good example. Carlos was in like IG jail for like 2 years because he said shit about COVID. They shut him down. They absolutely demolished his reach. Andy Frisella is in IG jail all the time. And I'd say he's like the godfather of like calling this shit out, wearing the tinfoil hat.
Really accurate.
Right. And he's been mighty accurate. Shout out Andy. He's been accurate through and through. So what are you guys' thoughts on this? To me, we all knew it was happening, just no one admitted it.
I've never been censored because I don't really say anything crazy. But I think I was watching this morning the vid. I think Patrick Bet David like kind of broke down the email letter or whatever. And I mean, I don't really know where Zuck stands. Like, I don't think he's going to disclose his political affiliations. He's certainly not on the left or the right. I think he's just kind of playing it pretty neutral. But I think in terms of like what it's going to do going forward with everything, I think it's just going to make it a fair playing ground if he's not going to censor any of the, right or left or whatever. I just think it's going to be, a free market and people can speak freely on what they want. I think that censoring people doesn't make any sense unless it's blatantly false, that's backed by evidence, but none of that stuff really is. I think it's people just getting emotionally involved. So I think it'll just make it a little bit more fair for anyone to get their voice out there, because that's the point of social media, right? You can get your own voice out there. You say whatever you want, free speech, whatever. And you should be able to say what you want, unless you're like defaming somebody or committing fraud. But, that's a different story.
Awesome. What about you, Dino?
So with censorship, I think that, again, I want to push back because I want to give some differing opinions just to really think through it. Definitely not the opposite of that. Again, let us remind you, Strat. Let us remind you.
America's favorite real estate investor.
I'm going to have this ready.
America's favorite real estate investor. There we go.
Here's the pushback on censorship. The idea that a company is being told by the government what they can or can't do, I don't like, right? The idea of the government getting involved in a company that was privately started and being able to tell them what they can or can't do, I don't like. But naturally, our First Amendment of freedom of speech and that being prohibited and not allowed, to me, naturally, I think that's terrible, right? And it makes me sick to think that there is, in the political space, a party that has such control over the media that they can influence an entire nation and sway opinions and viewpoints completely just by controlling the media. And that's on social media, that's on the major networks. The fact that can happen is crazy to me. That just tells you how deep the control is from that political party. So for me to see that censorship that has been obviously happening, I think it's crazy. They clearly, played an influence in the last election, like massively.
Huge.
And I'm just so excited because I've had all of these opinions kind of bottled up. Like I'm a conservative guy. I don't like to be extremist on any sort of which way, and I don't want to be viewed that way either. I want to be fair in my thoughts and how I approach certain situations and people's opinions. But I've certainly been getting more and more riled up over the past couple of years because we've kind of been forced to, right? Like we've all been kind of forced to choose a side.
They're doing it on purpose, man. They're trying to divide
doing it on
it.
purpose. Yeah. They are. Yeah. It's no surprise that people's eyes that are wide open. And so naturally, even though I'm aware of that, I am being presented with options where it is kind of a, which one do you choose? And now that there's more media outlets and sources that are coming out with these truths that have been hidden and kept back and censored from us is I just got my popcorn out and I've just been enjoying watching things unravel, because you want to believe that people have good intentions. You want to believe that, you know, the world isn't trying to do things against you. But when some of these things come out and you're just like, wow, that's really going on. It kind of just like reshapes your whole viewpoint on things. And now you're starting to look at almost everything with question now. Right. And so anyways, for the censorship, especially with social media and Zuck, I think for them to go away from doing that, I think would open up a whole new world on social media and start to see how people really feel and think. And to me, I'm excited about that.
All right. I have a counterpoint that I think is so obvious and I never heard it. Mark Zuckerberg was in his mid to early 30s when this happened. He had never been running $1 billion company before. And he's like, well, what the fuck would you do if the FBI reached out to you and they're like, hey, bud, no, you're not doing this. You know, like you're, you know, like it is.
Yeah, you're like,
you can
shit.
say you have as big as testicles as you want, but that is a very, very hard position to be in. At no point in time did you think when you're starting Facebook that you're going to be going and sitting in front of Congress and being like, hey, yeah, we didn't mean to do this. We didn't mean to do that.
You can see it all over his face too, right? And
yeah, he's like, oh shit.
What?
He's like,
this is not what I signed up for. Like, we were just trying to connect people, and now he's one of the most powerful people in the world. Right. And so I will give him grace that way, to where, like, bro, at no point in time was he like, yeah, it's gonna be multi-billion-dollar companies, and then I expect the FBI to reach out to me to say, hey, bitch, you got to cut that out. You got to snip that, because if you don't, this and that. You know, like, you're in your mid-30s. It's not like you're fully in and of yourself, full-time CEO. You're used to it. I feel like Elon Musk is a little bit more bombastic. He's been in the game longer. He knows what he's acceptable and what isn't. That's a hard-ass position to be in. And this is coming from someone who speaks their mind a lot, to where I feel like if I'm in that situation, it's like, oh, boy, I got to get my dad on the phone. What the fuck should I do here?
Calling the parents. Yeah, I mean, it's just a shame that, like, the FBI is like, oh, you got to censor that. Like, you should be able to, as long as it's not false information or you're defaming somebody, like, you should be able to say what you want, right? And the thing is, the media it's all about money, right? These big media companies are getting, you know, paid off. Like, it's all about money at the end of the day. And I just think that now with the less censorship, it's just going to make everything a true, like, free market, right? Like, vote what you want, think what you want. You know, nothing's going to hopefully be, you know, hidden that's not false. And it's just going to make it more interesting. I mean, it's just what's going to happen in November is just going to be, it's going to be so interesting to see what's really going on, because I think either way, whatever happens,
it's going to be fucking electric.
I think
it's
a defining moment. I think it's a defining moment in American history.
100%.
And
no matter what happens.
I think the censorship plays a huge part in it. What was the official article, Strat? I know that it was admitted to censorship, but what does that mean? Does that mean that it's going to stop?
Mark wrote a 2-page letter about it. Yeah, it was like a 2-page email about it, like discussing like about the COVID. I think it was mainly like the COVID stuff. He already admitted to the Joe Biden stuff, like the laptop stuff. There were like the FBI reached out to him twice, and then he went on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan like pressed him. And then that's where I got this viewpoint. It's like, bro, what the fuck would you do in that situation?
Yeah, right.
And so fair enough. But he wrote a letter saying, hey, I'm not going to be making any contributions, or I won't be making contributions of the same size and to one political party. And then we are not going, I don't think he blatantly said we are not going to like be censoring anymore, but that it was at least admitting something like that, you know. And now we're getting like pretty deep into these like political waters. I just thought it was interesting, because if you are a real estate investor, your world typically will involve social media, in my opinion. Like, if you are any type of investor right now at any scale, social media is such a big lever for you to pull, you cannot ignore it. Right. And so like you do need to know whatever is going on. Like the most successful people I know still like, hey, how should I figure out the social media stuff? Unless they've already made all of their money. Like, I don't need it anymore. This and that. Yeah. If you're in business, bro, it is a lever, and if you have a legitimate company, you're gonna have a team handling that for you, so we can grow, so we can reach more people, so we can do all that. Last and final question: do you think the way you appear and the way you dress will affect how successful you will be? I'll let you guys go. We'll
Greg,
start
you
with
go
Greg.
first on this one.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first,
Yeah.
Greg.
I think it depends. As long as you don't look like a bum, I think it doesn't matter. Like, I don't dress like a bum. I don't dress fancy. I think if I pull up in a, 2-piece, 3-piece suit and a Rolex on, if I'm trying to buy an apartment building from a guy who's kind of like that, maybe that helps. But I think sometimes if you dress up too much, you can, rub people the wrong way. Like, I don't really do it, honestly. I just wear like normal shit. Like, I got normal jeans, normal shoes. I don't have holes in my clothes. I do have some nice shit, but I don't like flash it around. I think, but if you dress down and you like look like shit and you like, there's a guy I've done deals with and he like just looks kind of like a bum, but the guy's super rich. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how is it? Like, it doesn't really compute in my mind because he dresses like super down. I don't know if he does that on purpose, but it kind of like has a weird perception in my head. But
I know some guys like that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. So I think just dress neutral. Like, you don't have to, wear a suit to a freaking real estate meetup, but just look normal. And it depends on what you're doing. Like, I'll give you another example. You're going to meet a motivated seller at a house, and you pull up in a G-Wagon or you pull up in a, Rolls Royce or something insane. And you got a Rolex on and you got like Gucci shoes and a Gucci belt. I think that's going to screw you up trying to buy a house, right? I think that's logical, right? But if you show up to someone's house in a beater car and you got holes in your jeans, that's probably going to screw you up too. Because how can this guy buy my house? He can't even drive a decent car. So I think just dress neutral, dress for the occasion. But I don't know. It's never really. I mean, I do everything virtual anyway, so I just got to make sure I look good up top, right? I can have underwear on below.
Yeah, you don't even have pants on right now. It's crazy.
I do, but
dick out, bro. Just fucking waving back and forth. You're wild,
dude. Tighty whitey's going. So I just think just be logical with it. Don't be insane and don't over or underdress, and that should get it done for you. What about you, Dean?
Real quick,
so
let me put Jason on blast.
Yeah, let's do it.
Jason does roll up in a fucking Porsche wearing a Rolex and $1,000 shoes to seller appointments. That is legitimately what he does. He drives his Porsche. He wears that black Rolex he always wears, and I'm guessing he has on his like $1,000 pair of Yeezys. And Jason's one of the best salesmen I know, and he buys houses deeper than anybody else I know. Like, when Jason's buying houses, he's getting stupid deals. Just to like put this in perspective for everybody. But go ahead, Dean.
Yeah, I think it depends on who you are as a person, how you carry yourself. Jeff said in IG, quick shout out to Rafael Cortez. I saw he hopped on here. What's up, Rafael? Jeff on IG said context of your environment and your demographic. Those are the things you touched on, Greg, which is the same thing I would say. I think it matters. If you're showing up as a bum, I think that you're going to give off the wrong message.
Yeah.
If it's in your personality to dress up and you have the personality that goes along with it, maybe that's just part of like your brand, right? For me personally, my own personal brand, dude, I just like to wear a nice t-shirt and some nice jeans and some decent shoes. And that's me dressing up. Otherwise, I'm just in workout clothes every single day. And that's what I wear every single day. I don't like to dress up. Now I won't say that it's not fun to dress up from time to time, but it's just not in my personality. I don't really value it. I don't get excited by putting on an expensive suit or expensive clothes or expensive cars, really. Like, that stuff is cool. It's nice to look at, but I don't really place any value in it. So for me personally, if you just look presentable, and you're not sloppy with like your personal hygiene and stuff like that, I
think that's more important than the clothes. If you got bad breath and you got something in the middle of your teeth,
for me, I think that's the most important. And I think it's shocking when you go to a meetup and you meet some other investors and they're lacking in the hygiene department. Like, they didn't put on deodorant. They didn't brush their teeth. They got their underwear hanging out, they're just looking a little sloppy.
See the plumber's crack.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen that too many times at meetups. So for me, when I see that, I'm like, guys, Like, come on, we got at least have some standard here. Like,
Yeah.
what I love about the real estate investing space is that an average Joe, everyday person that's very unassuming can be the richest person in the room, and they don't have to be dressed up nice to prove it. That I love. And, you know, my dad always just ingrained in me to like be very humble, not to like carry a lot of value in material things. And so I think that for me is just the way I grew up, and that instilled those beliefs in me. And so that's how I feel just in general about things, you know? So.
All right. So for me, I have a little bit of a as a young black man, you need to be able to dress right and speak well if you want people to take you seriously in business, especially in the real estate game. If you show up, you don't look right, you don't talk well, no one's going to take you seriously. I've just seen it. I've been through it. Right. And so that is one, like, my son's not even allowed to wear basketball shorts to school. Like, you need to dress accordingly. And then eventually, when you have a resume and everyone, like, your resume precedes you, then you can start to dress how you want. Right. So for me, like, I made it a point when I started getting good. I was like, you know, I'm going to speak in jumpsuits. And Dean's seen this. I was a jumpsuit guy for like 2 years. That's all I was doing. I was like, I'm just wearing jumpsuits. That's all I'm doing. Right. But it took me years and years and years of building my actual pedigree, resume. And then when I opened up my mouth, no one could ever question my intelligence or what I'm doing or anything else. And a lot of times when you show up to these sellers, I'd say your mouthpiece is most important. You could show up in flip flops. You show up in shorts and a tank top. You're like, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I do. How can I help you? And then you're empathetic. And then they know what you're talking about. I'd say the way you communicate more than anything will predict the way that your success will go, because anybody who's like not a shitbag treats everybody the same. But then as soon as you start talking, you're like, oh boy, like, this dude's got something going on. I'd even use Shamus, who came and spoke at our meetup at our event. Shamus looked nice, but very unassuming. And he was one of our speakers at our event. Shamus was worth 10x more than all of the speakers at the event combined, probably plus the audience, just taking in the round numbers. Like, how much money this dude is like made.
He just called me today. I was in a meeting at the time. I got to call him back, but yeah, that's a perfect example right there.
You know what I'm saying? And so like Shamus, he looked nice, he looked presentable. But when you talk to Shamus, you're like, oh geez, this guy's got something going on.
He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, he knows what he's talking about. So I tell you, more than anything, you can show up, look decent, but just be educated in what you're talking about, and that will get you leaps and bounds ahead of where you need to be. And then eventually, once you have your resume, you can dress however the fuck you want, wherever you want to go. Nobody's telling Elon Musk he needs to wear a tux anywhere. Elon Musk just shows up, does what he wants because it's Elon Musk. And so that type of pedigree is earned. Exactly.
Yeah, he's earned it.
You need to be able to earn how you look, how your appearance is, and then you can do whatever you want.
I went to an appointment down the street from where I live, and there was literally a competitor at the house at the same time as me. And I literally like ran out there because he was like my neighbor, literally selling the house. And I had I think I had basketball shorts on and like on clouds. And this guy showed up. He had like decent clothes on. He's like measuring the house like an appraiser. I got the property over him. Not because I'm some genius and I didn't even look that good, but I communicated well to this guy and followed up with him more and showed him more certainty and, you know, confidence and persistence. And like, you know, I had basketball shorts on, you know, and I wasn't, you know what I mean? I just happened to run out there. Right. But I think I probably wouldn't do that normally, but like, he's like, hey, come out right now. I'm at the property. Like, all right, I'll show up there. But like you said, man, I think the way you communicate and how people perceive you is the most important thing. Right.
Yeah. Because like you would never do that just getting started unless you were dumb and you didn't know. But you're like, right now, like, I know if I truly had to go over with sellers, I'm wearing basketball shorts and a Lululemon top. I had to go on an appointment. I'm like, yeah, what's going on? How you doing? How can we do this? How can I help you?
Exactly.
And then we're good to go. But you have to not only earn it with other people, but you have to earn it with yourself. So you have the confidence to act accordingly, wearing jumpsuits, wearing basketball shorts and everything else. And it's a completely different world. And it's like a psychological mind fuck as far as you have to prove to yourself who you are in order to dress like that, and then you'll be good.
Exactly. And it's all about how you make the other person feel. If you make the other person feel like they can trust you more than the guy wearing a freaking polo and khakis,
Yeah.
Right.
doesn't matter what that dude offered or how they look. Like if they're like, I trust, Joe or whoever, I'm going with Joe, whether he's got a hole in his pants or not. I mean, hopefully Joe doesn't have that. We're just, speaking about a phantom Joe here, but dude, communication is the most important thing for sure.
All right. Grego, you got any parting words for the people? Thank you for filling in for the Master of Hair. You did great.
Happy to do it again, man. This was a lot of fun. Parting
Greg
words.
Slays. Greg Slays.
What would I say? I would say just listen, go off of, if you're doing if you're doing like if you're doing house flips or wholesales, like, just don't get scared by what everyone else is saying. Just stick to the blocking and tackling and make the offers and underwrite with logic and don't get emotionally involved in deals in this economy. And if you're buying properties at 50, 60 cents on the dollar, you can't really get hurt that bad. So I think a lot of people are getting more scared than they really need to. Because if you're buying an asset that's 400 for 150 and you're putting in 50 grand worth of work, whatever, very hard to lose money in that situation, right? So just stick to the basics. Don't go over your skis and get into another vertical without doing the research or getting the mentors, and keep it simple.
I love it. Greg, where can people find out more about you?
Instagram, Grego37.
Bro, did you have any comments in your Instagram? Have you even checked?
I got to look at the tab. Ah, shit. It says it's not live. Whatever. Let me see.
This guy over here.
This fucking guy, bro.
Wait a minute.
I remember my first time.
Hold up. Oh, shit. Yeah. All right. Next time we do this, give me like at least a 40-minute heads up and I'll actually plug it in.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Peace.
Great photo, team.
Later, guys.